so lucky I can reach out to this man and say, hey, day after the national championship game, I know you're a busy man. Call in and give us your thoughts on the game and then what's going to happen next. One of our favorites from the worldwide leader in sports, Jay Bilas, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great, Rich. How are you?
I am well. I'm better for talking to you. Your thoughts on what you saw last night, Jay?
Well, it was a coronation. I mean, UConn was, I think everybody listening probably knows, they started the season 14-0 and were ranked number 1 or 2, whatever it was. And they looked like they were going to rip through the entire season. And they went through a weird stretch where they were, I think they lost 6 of 8, and they were all Big East games. Because they didn't lose to a non-conference opponent all year. Same thing they did in 2011 when Kemba Walker was there and won the championship. But, you know, a lot of teams, when they see their own blood, they're never the same. And they were not only the same, but they got better. And by the end of the year, you know, I don't know how they became a 4. I know they lost those 8 games, but still, they're legit, obviously. But they never had to play a 1 or 2 seed throughout the tournament. I think the highest seed they played in the tournament was a 3. You know, they beat a couple of 5s, beat a 13 in the first game. But they decimated everybody. I mean, to go through that tournament and average an average margin of victory of 20, that's historic.
And so what do you think made the difference? Why are they so good? What makes them so good?
Well, they're really talented, and they are really balanced. So they play equally well on defense as they do on offense. And they've got players, you know, that I think accepted roles, which is not always easy. And your role isn't necessarily what you're capable of. It's just what the team is asking you to do to win a championship. And the primary example to me is Andre Jackson Jr. Like, he's not a scorer. That dude's one of the best passers you're going to see. And some of the passes he threw in the championship game, he had 6 assists, but they were all like next level. Can you believe he threw that and got through type of passes? And then I heard you a little bit talking about Tristan Newton, and I agree that he's the reason for the portal. You know, a guy that was probably under-recruited out of high school, you know, an 18-point-a-game scorer at East Carolina, and then he goes to UConn, has to switch positions and play point, and had not only had a great year, he had a couple triple-doubles during the year, but in the championship game he goes 19 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals, if I remember right. He turned it over a few times, which was the only thing he could nitpick about his performance or UConn's. Just a stunning, you know, it was stunning, really, the whole tournament for them.
Well, it wasn't me who pointed it out. It was my wife, Susie, who pointed it out. And I have to give her credit since she's staring right at me right now. And you also know her from back in the day at ESPN, Jay. So there's that, too.
Well, I think it's good to always defer to the smarter of the two.
Thank you, Jay.
There you go. There you go. I just figured I'd have to, you know, go back old memory lane with you a little bit here. So why is Sanogo so good? You could see it, but I'd love to have you tell me what makes him as good as he appears. His name entered, was in very select company entering last night's NCAA tournament final with Hakeem and Corliss Williamson and Leitner as averaging 20 points per game and shooting 65% or better getting into that game. So why is he so generationally great, do you think?
I think, Rich, he had the natural progression of a really good player, almost old school wise. And he came in, he didn't have all the tricks in his bag. He had to learn at this level. And sort of like UConn as a team, you know, they struggled last couple of years in the tournament. They lost in the first round, and sometimes you have to win by losing, if that makes sense, and learn how to win. And you're not going to learn how to win until you take some punches. And they took a few, and they got better together. And Sanogo's a prime example of that. His footwork got better, his skill set, and he's always had the physical tools. But to see somebody put it together like that is really, really rewarding. And then when he goes out, they bring in a 7'2" freshman, Donovan Clingan, who was awesome throughout the tournament. Unbelievably talented and just covers up the rim. And nobody seems to care who gets the credit on that team, which is a pretty cool way to play.
Well, Jay Bilas here on the Rich Eisen Show. A few minutes with him the day after the NCAA tournament wraps up with a UConn win. UConn now has as many national championships on the men's side as your highly esteemed institution of higher learning in Duke. Also as many all-time wins as Indiana. But we also understand the consistency between those other two programs and who was at the helm. It's three different guys in three different eras in a way. How does that happen? How do you ascribe their success, Jay?
Well, I mean, Rich, everybody talks about this blue blood thing. And to me, the blue blood discussion is kind of like talking about wealth. You know, the blue bloods in wealth are like the Vanderbilts and the Gettys and all that have the old money. And nobody says blue blood for Bill Gates or Mark Cuban or all this stuff. But, you know, the UConn, since '99, they've won 5 championships. And you mentioned 3 different coaches. They've been as successful as anybody. And the idea that they've been to the championship game 5 times, they've won them all, is absurd. And they've won as a favorite. They've won as a 4 seed. They've won as I think they were like a 7 seed one year and won the whole thing. It's just absurd how good they've been. But the 3-coach thing is the thing that fascinates me, because when Calhoun was there and the Big East broke up, the ACC was really looking at UConn. And one of the things I remember hearing from some ACC administrators were they were concerned that UConn might be a 1-coach program, that when Calhoun left, it might not stay at that level. And not only did it stay there, you know, in a way, it's kind of elevated because it stayed there with all the changes we've seen in college sports. So pretty remarkable, and especially when you put the men's and women's together. You know, they've won like 16 championships there. I mean, that's the capital of basketball. And
I guess the Hurley family can coach. This just in, right, Jay? I mean,
yes,
they know how to coach.
I felt really good. I felt really good for Danny, because I think you know the story, Rich. You know, he's Bobby Hurley's younger brother. He played at Seton Hall about the same time Bobby did. They played against each other in the NCAA tournament one year when I was a grad assistant at Duke. And I was sitting there worried about what this is, you know, how difficult it was on Bobby. It never occurred to me how difficult it was on Danny. And he had some real issues dealing with it, and almost gave up the game. And for him to come through all that and now, you know, be able to, I think Reese Davis was saying, you know, now he gets to sit at the table at dinner and flash that ring, you know, because Bobby's got 2 as a player, and his dad won a bunch of national championships as a high school head coach. You know, now he's got bragging rights, and it's really nice for him.
It is. Are you willing to share a little bit more on that? Like, difficult for Dan Hurley? I know it's obvious when you're talking about maybe sibling rivalries or living up in your own household, doing the same thing as what Dad does, but is it as simple as that, or what do you got for me on that, Jay?
Well, he had real mental health challenges, and to where he you know, for a while, if I remember right, he wouldn't come out of his room and you know, kind of give up the game type of stuff because of the pressure. And then if you remember, I think Danny was either in college or just out of college when Bobby got in that accident that almost killed him. And he had some real issues with that, some guilt issues, that you know, kind of it should have been me thing, which nobody should have to think about.
And now he's a national champion head coach. Can't make it up, right, Jay? And he's on the list of coaches who had 2 or fewer NCAA tournament wins entering a tournament that he eventually won. And the other 3 are Jim Valvano, Kevin Ollie, who he succeeded, and Steve Fisher, who's assistant on the night that he beat Seton Hall and PJ Carlissimo, who Dan used to play for. The assistant, Brian Dutcher, he beat Brian Dutcher last night. It's unbelievable. Again, you cannot make it up, Jay. You cannot.
Yeah, it's kind of a small world in that regard. But, you know, I think any time you see somebody who's done it the hard way, you have a really good feeling about it. And that's why, you know, maybe it's because, you know, when I played a million years ago, my team was the number 1 overall seed, and we lost in the title game by a bucket. And so I always look at the losing team going off the floor every championship because I was there. And, you know that feeling of being right there, it should have been yours, and it's not. And, you know, you feel really good for Brian Dutcher because he was a career assistant. His dad, Jim Dutcher, was the head coach at Minnesota back in the day, and he was there at the game last night. He's not been feeling well. But Brian, you know, it took him to his late 50s to get a head coaching job. when he succeeded Steve Fisher and helped Steve build that program at San Diego State, which was nothing when they got there. They literally could not give tickets away. They were walking around campus with tickets in their pocket, and they were probably bribing people to come. And now that's one of the hottest tickets in Southern California. And, I don't know if you've been to Viejas Arena, but it is awesome. It is just a fantastic place.
Jay Bilas here on the Rich Eisen Show. Couple more minutes left with Jay. You want to chime in on the women's national championship game? Your opinion on the national conversation that came out of it and what the game, how compelling it was, Jay?
Well, I think it's, I covered women's basketball years ago, back in 2000 when, I sat at the desk with Robin Roberts and Vera Jones, and it was a blast. And the way the game's grown since then is so gratifying, so fun to watch. And it's such a clean, good game. I mean, some of it gets overly physical, like the men, but and to watch Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and that whole made up controversy. Like, why can't women be that competitive? Well, where they trash talk like the guys do, and I thought it pointed out some things that we do in society that we should be more mindful of. And I was happy that there was that sort of discussion. And then what South Carolina's Dawn Staley said after the game, like, we should be mindful of what we say and how we couch things when we're making descriptions of players and teams. And I thought that was all positive.
Jay Bilas here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, before I let you go, I guess it's Victor Wembanyama's world, and we're just paying rent in the NBA draft. Teams, I imagine, falling all over themselves, hoping for ping pong balls to hit. That's next on your radar screen is the NBA draft. Who did we see in the last 2-3 weeks you think helped themselves for that from the tournament? Jay.
I'm sure Jordan Hawkins helped himself. There are a number of college players that probably moved up among the college players, but we're going to see it's going to be a youthful draft again. And I think the thing that I'll be interested in watching, not just this year, but as we go forward, is how players, the top players coming out of high school, are deciding what to do next. Are they going to take more money and go to college, or are they going to go into the G League where they get NBA coaching and don't have to go to school, or overtime elite, which is kind of an odd thing to me because it's so sort of social media like. But to me, it'll be really interesting to see. But Victor Wembanyama, if LeBron James were 18 years old right now and the same player that came out of St. Vincent St. Mary's in 2003, I actually think it'd be a tough decision what you should do. That's how transformational this guy's going to be. He's a 7'4" guard, and it's like looking at a Giannis that can shoot and handle. He's next level. None of the stuff you've heard has been made up. He's the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that video on the SportsCenter Instagram of him following up a 3-point short shot of his own with a jam. I've never seen anything like that. He's unreal. Do you think we see Sanogo in the draft? What do you think, Jay?
I don't know. The game's kind of different from his style. He can certainly and will play in the NBA,
mm-hmm.
but he's going to have to continue to improve his perimeter shot to where he can stretch the floor a little bit. And I think in pick and roll situations defensively, he can be at risk. So he's going to have to improve there. But, he's probably a late first into the second round pick. And it may be worth his while to come back, and maybe more money if he comes back.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the hard part for some of these guys is the financial component versus, they're getting older every year. And, do you want to go into the league when you're 22 or 23 when the league doesn't value you the same way as they do an 18-year-old? That's sort of a hard decision.
Yeah, and then last one, I texted you this because I'm just fascinated by Marquise Noel. We had him on yesterday, finally got a chance to meet him, and I just love watching him play. What are his pro prospects, do you think, Jay?
Oh, he'll play in the NBA because of his quickness, his ability to shoot it. He'll be fine. And years ago, his size would have been a detriment. Not anymore. He'll be fine. Look, you'd rather be bigger, but if you're good enough, you're big enough, and he's good enough.
Jay, I appreciate the time, man. Did you call in from the golf course, Jay? Are you calling in from the golf course?
You're You're damn right I did.
I knew it.
I missed a birdie putt because of you.
Oh, my gosh.
On the last hole.
I appreciate. So seriously, when you say you missed a birdie putt, were you putting while talking to me? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I putted a 12-foot birdie putt and missed it, and then now I got about 115. I hit a tee shot while we were talking and hit it right down the middle. Now I got about 115 to an uphill. Well, you can listen to me. You can listen to me hit it right now.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
115, a little bit of a downhill lie.
Okay.
All right, here we go. I'm setting up to it, and I look magnificent.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's mine.
All right, where did it land? Where are we? What dart did you throw,
It landed
Jay?
a little right of the flag.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to walk up the hill now and check out the putt if you want to stick around. But I'm so close to the hole, I'll have to wait a while with my playing partners.
The magic of earbuds and also the ability to be a natural athlete and focus. Jay, you're the package. You're the full package right here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Thanks for doing it. You take care of yourself. That's Jay Bilas, everybody. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.